Hey there, let me know if you have any questions. This is just an open forum to ask questions about your spiritual journey, your twin flame, sharing your experience. So I know what an incredibly difficult journey this can be. So this is a place where you can ask questions for free, and hopefully we can kind of help you explore what it is that you're going through on your twin flame journey. So if you've got questions, go ahead and type them into the chat and we can discuss it. So I know that sometimes people want to just kind of get in and just kind of listen and not necessarily ask any questions. So I'm going to share a little bit about some of the things that I know, or at least have experienced on the twin flame journey, because everybody's journey is just a little bit different. It's not the same for anyone. My journey may have certain parallels that align with your journey, but they're never going to be the same because this really is a tailored experience for the individual from the divine to aid you in your awakening. That's the purpose of meeting the twin flame. That's the reason that we meet them. And it's never a coincidence. It's never, by chance that we meet our twin flame when we do. It's 100% divinely orchestrated. So if there's any part of your mind that's telling you that you're not ready for this or that you don't actually want this to be happening, that's probably fear coming in, or doubt, or insecurity, um, because this journey highlights a lot of aspects of the self that are not serving us well, and it can be really difficult to move through those challenges. And so oftentimes, especially in the beginning of the journey, we kind of feel like this isn't what I want, this isn't what I would have chosen. But there's lots of layers to this. So even though on a surface level it's not what you would choose as far as a romantic relationship would go, because this is not just a romantic relationship. Oh, I just noticed that I spelled experiences wrong in the chat. Anyway, I was typing too quickly. Anyway, this is not a journey that is meant to necessarily mirror a typical romantic relationship. This is a journey that is meant to wake you up. Your twin flame comes into your life at that particular time because it starts a chain of events. It starts a domino effect in your life that causes you to go within, to move within, and to start seeking answers from the only true place that you can actually get them is within the self. Prior to meeting our twin flame, we're externally focused as everyone else is in the world, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The external experience that we have is a gift, but we don't feel that we have any control or influence over that external experience. We feel that the external experience is happening to us. The twin flame experience flips the script on us, and nothing's really going the way that we want, and it triggers a lot of things in our mind. We feel victimized, or, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but we feel like, why would I meet this person? experience this amazing love just to have it taken away. It feels a little bit like a cruel joke from the universe. But it's actually not. It's in that period of time that you actually are kind of forced to stop looking for answers outside of yourself and to go within. That's the only way to really feel better um, from the experience of the dark night of the soul. You have to go inside into who you are so that you can see what it is that you are perceiving and viewing in the outside world, and alter and change what's happening inside so that you can ultimately affect what's happening outside. The twin flame kind of purposefully, not consciously, because they don't realize that they're doing it, but in the divine connection between the two, it is purposeful that they run from you. So, the fact that they run from you is the catalyst that causes you to step back and have to start figuring things out from your own perspective. It's that runner chaser dynamic back and forth between the two of you that really ultimately, because we can't find the answers in our divine masculine, which we're desperately seeking to do, and we're chasing after them energetically, watching their social media, trying to figure out why they're doing what they're doing, why they're making the choices that they're making, trying to somehow influence the choices that they're making, altering who we are in order to try to attract them back or get them to come back and pay attention to us. All of those things start to become very highlighted on this journey, because every time we think we're on the precipice of getting an answer from our divine masculine, or that things seem to be like, working as far as what it is that we're trying to do, that everything changes again. And that is purely by design from the divine, because we're not meant to find our answers in our divine masculine. We'll never find the answers in the divine masculine, in what it is that they're doing and saying and thinking. They'll never show up for us that way. Now, that doesn't mean they won't show up for us. It's just not in the way that we want them to. And again, that's the reason for that is by design, because if they were there to give us the answers, we would stay externally focused. We would be seeking answers outside of ourselves. We would be putting them on a pedestal, looking for direction and, peace and happiness and love from an external force. That's exactly the opposite of what the twin flame is there to teach us. The twin flame is there to teach us that the love that we're seeking, that the answers that we're looking for, that the value and all of those things are something that come from inside of us, not from them, not from a romantic relationship. So it's not that you can't have a romantic relationship with your divine masculine at some point in time, but it's altering that perspective of what you expect, like the expectations that you have of what this relationship is and why it's in your life. It's a mirror, essentially. Your divine masculine mirrors you. So if you have fears, they're probably going to surface in your divine masculine. If you have no fear, then you kind of neutralize that energy with your divine masculine. But how do you get to a place when all these outside circumstances are causing you to feel fear and then not feel fear? That's the spiritual journey. That's detachment. That's the inner journey of, separating consciousness, recognizing what that is from the five senses, the human experience. So we'll talk a little bit about that. What is detachment? What is consciousness and the human experience? with your twin flame, you know that you are one and the same soul, right? There's two bodies, one soul. Everyone kind of agrees on that. Everyone sees it that way. That's basically the twin flame teaching, the twin flame lore. Um, I'd say there's different ways that people can talk about it. Sometimes they can say, same soul blueprint, or same, birth from the same monadic egg, right? There's different ways that people will try to explain that, but to kind of simplify it, it's two bodies, one soul. How can the soul have two bodies but be one soul? And are you the body or are you the soul? And this is kind of fundamental in understanding the twin flame journey, because if your twin flame is you in another body, that can be extraordinarily confusing for people. It certainly was for me. It took me a very long time and a lot of studying and a lot of soul searching to understand what that actually means. And bear with me, because after years of exploring this and finally getting to a place where I understand it, it's not so easy to articulate it in a short live stream for people, because there's a lot of components. It creates a bigger picture. It creates a fuller, larger picture. So to kind of like go into that a little bit, you are the soul, okay? There's not two of you, there's one of you. If you are the soul, it's just you. Part of what helped me kind of have these breakthrough moments was when I suddenly stopped seeing myself as a body and as a mind. And I kind of zoomed back from that a little bit. And I recognized that I was the consciousness. I was the soul having a human experience, which puts me in the place of more of being an observer of the human experience. Like right now, I have a mouth, I'm speaking to you, but I'm not the mouth. The mouth that I'm using to speak with you is an aspect of the body. The body is an aspect of the soul. It's just a facet, it's a small part of the bigger picture. At the core, so the mind and the body, all of these external parts of the self don't exist without the soul, the consciousness. But the consciousness does not need the body, the mouth, the mind, and all this external stuff to exist. So the consciousness is eternal. It is the divine being. That's where you and your twin flame are one. But ultimately, it is you. So I've got two hands here, right? Another way to explain it is I've got two hands. Am I more this hand or am I more this hand? They're very similar. I got two pinkies that have broken nails. They're very similar, right? And so, but they're not identical, but they're similar. And, one of them can be like touching hair, the other one can be touching glasses. This one can't feel the glasses and this one can't feel the hair. However, I feel them as one experience happening simultaneously. So I'm feeling both, even though independent of each other, they can't feel what the other one feels. You can look at you and your twin flame kind of like that. But then you think, well, how am I witnessing them if I'm here and they're there? That's still body identification. You are experiencing you and your twin flame simultaneously, but how you, the soul, experience this body and that body simultaneously is different, right? Just like these hands are different and they experience different things, your experience of you and your twin flame are different. They are external projections of the consciousness. So have you ever walked into a room, like a changing room, where there was mirrors all around you, and as you stood in that changing room, these mirrors showed multiple reflections of you, an infinite number of reflections. It just kept going and going and going. I'm sure all of you have experienced that before. Well, each one of those reflections is a reflection of the source, but each reflection is a little bit different. One is closer The next one's a little further away, and so on and so on and so on, right? Like a fractal. The reflections are real, but they are not the source. So say I want to change any one of those reflections. I can't go and reach into the mirror and mess around with the mirror to try to change the reflection. I can't touch this computer right now and try to change the way that I look on it. There's nothing that I can do. The image of me on the screen right now is a real image, but it's just an image. It's not the source. So I can't change it no matter what I do. I have to recognize that there is a source for that image. And that source, then I could go to the source and try to change the source of that image and make it look however I want. Life is like that. Okay, this is an analogy for your ability as a soul to change the outer reflection of the world around you, change the way that you and your twin flame interact with each other. You have to first recognize that you are the source of the image, that this body and that body are just reflections of the source. That requires going within, recognizing what you truly is. You are not this body. This body is an aspect. That body is also an aspect. Everything in this world essentially is an aspect. And you are that consciousness that steps into these different states of being that create the world around you. There's that source. So again, this is a deep rabbit hole that I've been studying for years and years and years. And to try to turn around and convey it in a short conversation, this is just limited information. But this journey that I've been on as a result of having encountered my twin flame and also a catalyst, because I did have a catalyst experience. Not everybody has that. That's okay. Again, each person's journey is going to be different. No two twin flame journeys are going to look the same, which is why I can't give you all the answers. You couldn't give me all the answers because, again, that defeats the purpose. Answers are not found outside of you. Answers are found within you. Now I can try to point you in a certain direction, and you can point me in a certain direction, and reading a book can point me in a certain direction. But ultimately, all of those answers come from inside of us. That's the only way. So this journey that we're on with our twin flame, the journey of life, period, besides the twin flame, is pointing us in the direction of not being externally focused anymore, but instead going within and recognizing the source. This is a process that can sometimes take lifetimes. Neville Goddard is a phenomenal teacher when it comes to the spiritual journey. So I don't know if any of you have ever listened to Neville Goddard. I highly recommend Neville Goddard. There's a lot of other teachers as well that I highly recommend, and we'll talk about at different points in time. I am going to be doing lives consistently now going forward on Thursdays. So if you guys have questions, you want to kind of spread it around a little bit, hopefully we'll start to pick up some moment. Well, I know we'll start to pick up some momentum. I've been offline a little bit as of recently over the past few months because of just personal life stuff going on, but I've gotten it sorted out, and now I'm at a place where I'm able to dedicate the time that I need in order to further the Conduits channel. So if you guys want to join in on our live next Thursday as well, please feel free, even ahead of time, to even email questions. Also, we do have a special right now for 30% off of one-on-ones or personal tarot readings. So if you guys are interested in that, there's that as well. So you guys can find that information on the YouTube page. I think it's July 4th, JULY 4TH. So you can get discounts on that until tomorrow, I think. But anyway, enough about that. If you guys have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer them. But I think that these lives will be a good service to be able to kind of give back for those that don't want to or can't afford to, spend some money to talk about things. Lives are a great source for that. Sorry, I'm sitting on bed and it's a little bit uncomfortable. So anyway, twin flames. We'll go and talk some more a little bit about that. Twin flames are a total pain in the right, but they're the biggest blessing. And it's not even the twin flame itself that is a blessing. It's the chain of events that are sparked as a result of meeting the twin flame. It is kind of the first stages, and I don't even know if that's true, because your whole life from birth to death is part of your spiritual awakening. But the twin flame marks a significant place in your journey. You don't meet them before you're meant to meet them. You meet them when you're meant to meet them, because trust me, it is another reflection of the soul, which means there's no mistakes. There's no coincidences. It's not by chance. It happened when it was meant to happen. But the revelation that takes place afterward is, that's like the real true gift of this journey. And they kind of mark that turning point, because there is, and you know it when you meet your twin flame, there's something there, right? Now, some people will meet a catalyst prior to meeting their twin flame. Some people will meet a catalyst after meeting their twin flame. Some people will be confused about which is which. That can happen sometimes. I always say it doesn't matter, right? It really doesn't matter. We put a lot of emphasis in our minds on trying to figure out the little details along the way to make sense of this journey. But, I didn't realize that I'm skipping that. I was about to show you guys an ad. I didn't realize that there were ads on this. So we're skipping that. I'm not doing that on these. I'm going to have to figure out what that setting is. Alexa's talking in the background. Okay, so where was I? Sorry for the distraction there. But I didn't want you guys to get interrupted with some dumb ads. Okay, so you don't meet your twin flame until you're absolutely meant to. Again, it's orchestrated by the divine. You are connected to the divine. As a matter of fact, you are the divine. And you've gone through this life, this linear life with a purpose. Some people talk about like, well, is there a mission with your twin flames? And you're going to hear a lot of stuff on the internet. And some people will be like, oh, it's all BS. Well, it's not actually all BS. A lot of it is really legitimate information. The interesting thing is, because of the fact that every single person's journey is completely unique, some people's experience that they share online will resonate with you and some of it won't. And if it doesn't resonate with you, it wasn't meant to. But that doesn't mean it won't resonate for someone else's. I've been doing this and working with twins long enough, even prior to starting the Conduits channel, to know that when people are getting online, people like myself, trying to help the twin flame community, they're helping from a perspective of how they experienced the journey. And so, of course, I do that to a certain degree, but I've done it long enough where I've also been able to learn to remain very open to the different experiences that different twin flames have. And I'll never say to you like, oh, I've gotten this all figured out, because I don't believe that there is such a thing as a person right now that's gotten it all figured out. I think when we do get it all figured out, we're like an ascended master and we're not here anymore. Ultimately, that's where each and every one of you is going. That's where each and every one of you is headed. That's what this journey is bringing you to, if you are open to it, if you allow that transition to take place. And the language of saying allow it is a little misleading, not purposefully, but language can do that to us sometimes. But it can be a little bit misleading in the sense of it's going to happen whether you resist it or not. Resistance can slow the process down for you a little bit, or it can, but in the resistance itself, it's not like that's a bad thing because there's lessons to be learned in that. So it's part of the journey. It's part of the process. You're always exactly where you're meant to be. And you already have all things available, but it's through that personal growth that you start to kind of get better at picking and choosing along the way. So law of attraction, law of assumption, the universal laws of creation, the depths that this spiritual journey will take you on will start to teach you that you are the creator of your life, even of the circumstances that you don't think you would want or choose. And it's hard at first to really truly accept that because there is a feeling of, again, each and every single one of us has had this. There is a feeling of this is happening to me and I didn't choose it. And we feel victim, not like I'm a victim, but like we feel like we don't have a say. And I guess on some levels you can say that there's a little bit of truth to that, but there really isn't, because everything that happens in the reflection outside of us happens as a result of something going on within us. And so until we kind of figure out and isolate and learn to go within to see what that is, we can't change it. It's happening to show us those areas that are out of alignment. So when bad things happen, it's showing you what might be going on that's out of alignment. So I have a question here. It says, can twin flames disappear even if you have done the work? It seems like a lot of people just move onto other things and the twin just disappears. Yes, the twin flame can disappear even if you have done the work, because the work, there's like an implication in the work that we're talking about, which is that there's a starting point and an ending point. And that when you do the work, that there's some type of, cause and effect, or reward or something that will come in to, reward you for having done the work. And so let me try to explain this as best as I can. You're on a journey that doesn't have a destination because it's eternal. And so where you're at with your twin flame right now is where you're meant to be. So the work, or the good work that is talked about also outside of twin flames, is the inner journey, right? That process, the journey within. And that is what all of us are on. So when we're talking about the work, that's what we're talking about, is doing the inner work, right? And the inner work consists of a lot of things. It's learning about spirituality. It's having spiritual experiences. It's meditation. It's healing, inner trauma, recognizing what that is and delving into the whole shadow self. Those are all things that are very helpful on our journeys. But there isn't some like guarantee for each one of us. Now, a lot of twin flame teachers will tell you that there's a guarantee. But I can guarantee you that the twin flame teachers that are telling you that there is a guarantee about something have shifted their own focus as to what that means. So, for example, you could have a person who says that they're in union with their twin flame. But what they actually mean by that is they've come to understand that union is something that already exists. And so there's a little bit of what I've noticed in the twin flame community of like a carrot on a string being dangled to twin flames that are seeking information to say that what most people are thinking of when they're thinking of unions, they're talking about external union, or like physical union is a better way to say it. And so when someone says, well, I'm in permanent union with my twin flame, they're permanently in my life, I always have them around, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have achieved the physical union of being in a romantic relationship with their twin flame. I know this just because I've been in the community for a long time, and I've talked with a lot of twin flame coaches, and I know how it's described. And I actually want to create a platform that gets rid of the games, that gets rid of the double talk, right? That doesn't promise something that they themselves haven't even been able to achieve. And so your twin flame journey is an ongoing journey, and it's really a personal journey. It's your journey. And so union is already there. You're in permanent union with your twin flame already. Physical union, what is physical union? Physical union is defined differently by different twin flames. And so you have to look at what that means to you. Does it mean, being friends with your twin flame? Because some people that say that they're in permanent union and physical union are just in a friendship with their twin flame where there's just no more running and chasing from their perspective because they're happy with where it's at. But some people who would argue and say, well, that's not twin flame union, right? The twin flame union is a romantic relationship with your twin flame. And so, yes, a twin flame can disappear even when you've done the work, because the work is something like your growth and your expansion never changes. And your twin flame isn't an indicator as to whether or not you are growing in your spiritual journey. Some people's twin flames will come back and they'll still have a friendship. Some people's twin flames will come back and they will have a romantic relationship with their twin flame. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's for the rest of their lives either. Sometimes that can come in and out and in and out. And really quick, I've got to plug my laptop in because it's about to die and I don't want that to happen. Give me just a quick second. For that to happen. And then also you have some people too where there are some people whose twin flame turns out to be a catalyst, okay? And they haven't met their true twin flame yet. And it's not until they let go of the catalyst twin flame, some people would call it a false twin flame, some people just call it a catalyst, that the true twin flame will come in. And so for some people, there's a balancing that goes on with their twin flame. For some people, there is a balancing that goes on with a catalyst prior to meeting their twin flame. So in the event of the person that they started out with being a catalyst, yeah, that person would go and not come back at all, but somebody else would come in. Now, there are some people that would say, well, that's maybe a soulmate. You're going to know because the journey will reveal it to you. Even if you go through a period of confusion, don't worry. If the answer or if the question exists within you, the answer is going to come to you. So if it's a catalyst, they could disappear completely and not come back, or maybe come back once or twice and then not come back at all. But then your true twin flame would come in once you've kind of let that go and allowed the transformation to take place within you. If it is your twin flame, then they can come back sometimes with a period of back and forth, but you're okay with it. And so as they move in and out of your physical existence, you start to feel less and less of the attachment and the ups and downs. Now, I want you to understand something about attachment and detachment. Attachment and detachment in the twin flame journey is something that has to do with you recognizing that you are consciousness and you are still having the human experience. So a lot of people think that detachment means you stop feeling things, or that you stop loving your twin flame, or that you just You have no feelings for them. I disagree with that entirely. I think that you still have feelings, but detachment is being detached from the feelings. The full spectrum of the human emotions are still going to be there, but you are detached, which means you've learned through mindfulness and meditation and you know being present in the moment to be the witness of the human experience, of the human body, of the avatar. But you're no longer identified that it is you. You recognize the avatar as an aspect of you. And so, yes, I hope that kind of answers a little bit of your question. They can disappear even if you've done the work. Now, the other thing too is that sometimes, because this journey really truly is about your awakening, and that this body and that body are reflections of the soul on a physical level. But the soul is whole. It's that's why you're permanently in union with your twin, because the soul doesn't split. Okay, the soul is the witness. It's the watcher. And even with the soul, I want you to think about this for a minute. This body is a constant, at least for this linear space of time in the soul's experience. But there are a lot of things that come in and out of the awareness of the soul every single day, right? Like my fiance, he's not in here with me right now. He's in another part of the house, but that doesn't mean he doesn't exist, right? That doesn't mean that we're not together. That doesn't mean that we're not, in a relationship. He's just in another place, but I don't see him. There's no evidence of him right here, right now, right? There's zero evidence of him right now in this present moment. But I know I'm going to be able to see him again. Your twin flame may be in and out. It's no different than any other person. But that doesn't mean that you don't have that bond and that relationship with them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your perception of what that bond and relationship is, like, let me see how I can explain this. Have you ever had like a situation with like a friend or a family member where you thought something was going on and you had all this evidence in your mind? And you're like, I know this is what's going on. I have analyzed the crap out of this. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. And I know this is what's happening. And then you confront that person. And all of a sudden, with all this new information, you realize that you were completely wrong, or that you were mostly wrong. But you were adamant and you were sure that you were right. Our experience with our twin flame, most of it, and this is where the work is recognizing that the majority of the relationship that we have with our twin flame is completely 100% created within the mind itself and our perception of what we think is going on with the twin flame. And so when we look at it and we say, well, other people have just moved on to other things and the twin just disappears. The twin doesn't disappear, and that doesn't mean that the connection isn't still there. It just means that they're not in that physical space with you at that time. And it doesn't mean that they won't be at some other point in time. As a matter of fact, it's the fear of them. So again, our twin flame is there to kind of highlight the aspects of ourselves sometimes that are not working, and to maybe highlight the aspects that are, because it pushes us to go within. That's what the work itself is, right? Is to know thyself. And so if we have a fear that our twin flame is never going to come back, where does that come from? That comes from a fear of us thinking that without them coming back, that we're either doing something wrong, we haven't done the work properly, or that we're somehow in a place of lack. These are all mental states of perspective that create our reality. And that's exactly what we're supposed to overcome. So if we believe our twin flame is running, then they're running. If we believe that they're not running, then they're not running. But just because they're not running doesn't mean that they're going to be like glued to your shoulder 24/7 and that you're never going to not be able to see them again. It really comes down to a belief system. So as soon as our twin flame isn't showing up in our lives in a way that we think that they're supposed to, according to a mold that we projected onto them, we think that they're running from us. But when you haven't heard from your mom or your best friend for a month, and maybe they missed a couple text messages from you, do you think that your friend is running from you? Or that they've disappeared out of your life? No, you know that they're still there and that friendship is still there. But we put a different thing on our twin flame, and then we go onto the internet, and that just sustains a lot of these belief systems about the running and the chasing. And so keeping an open mind to the journey is very key and very crucial. If we have an expectation that, okay, so when I was really in a lot of that back and forth, like energy and feeling a lot of the ups and downs, I remember like starting to feel better, and I was doing a lot of the work, right, that I had been learning about and really like soul seeking and stuff like this. And I was starting to feel better. Like, so a lot of the dark night of the soul energy was going away. And I remember having kind of a moment in time where I was like, you know what? I realized that I was feeling better because I was focusing on the spiritual stuff, and I was learning, and I was opening my mind up, and I was changing and rearranging and refiling a lot of the perceptions and ideas in my mind, which was definitely, and I was seeing a lot of evidence of that in my life. So naturally I was starting to feel better. But I all of a sudden started to realize that I was doing all of this for the wrong reasons. And that was one of the reasons why my twin flame was showing up in my life the way that they were. Because I was making it about them. I was doing all of these things with them as the end goal. If I do this and I do that and I follow this rule and I follow that and I make sure this happens and I go, and I do all these things, my twin flame is going to come back to me. And when I realized that even that, like, but all the twin flame teachers were saying, no, don't do that. Don't do that. You got to let go of them. You got to let go of them. And let, it can't be about them. But at the same time, they're like, but if you do all these things, then they'll come back to you. So I was like, how do I remedy that in my mind? If I do all these things, they'll come back to me, but let them go. Don't think about them, cut them off. You can't do it for this person. There was like a disconnect. It was like creating like a cognitive disconnect in my mind. Like I couldn't remedy that, and so I couldn't let go of doing the work to get the twin back, because that was definitely the reason why I was doing the work. But it was like this, like, it was like a series of things that had to happen in my journey, and it was all divinely orchestrated. Like I didn't do any of this. Okay. Almost all of the work that I have done on my journey, I didn't actually do myself. Like you could kind of say it feels like you do, but it's all through personal revelation. It all comes from source. It comes from God. And it's like given to you along the way through synchronicities, through experiences. Like you guys know that the synchronicities and the connections, the constellating that you do on this journey is off the charts. And the way the divine speaks to you, like you can tell other people and they'll think you're a little bit kooky or batty, right? But that's because they haven't experienced this stuff yet. You know that what you're experiencing is because that's the way the divine speaks to us. It speaks to us through signs, symbols, and synchronicities. And only you'll see them. Only you'll recognize them on your path. And those signs, symbols, and synchronicities for me are not even going to be identical to the ones you have, yet you and I are both on a spiritual path. And we're both connected to the divine, but how the divine reveals itself to you is different than how it reveals itself to me. Now, when I switched and I suddenly came to the realization that it wasn't about my twin and it wasn't about getting my twin back. And I guess I changed the carrot on the string from being the twin flame to being my spiritual journey. That's when everything shifted for me, because suddenly it wasn't Like the reward was no longer the twin flame. The reward was me. And then I recognized that I was the twin flame. I was the soul. I am the soul. And I have two bodies that I witness doing things, like the reflections in the mirror, like I was talking about. One's closer, one's further away. It's hard. It's so hard to explain. And it's hard because I remember not being able to get this. And I know as I'm saying it, it's like, it's hard to point to. Everything that's happening outside of you is a reflection of the spiritual. It's real, but it's not real. Just like when you look in the mirror, that reflection of you is real, but it's not real because it's not you. It's a reflection of you. This pillow isn't either, right? Like this pillow in a way is a reflection of you. Like you've manifested all of this. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's actually the truth. So in quantum physics, right, they talk about quantum entanglement. They talk about, which is helpful to kind of learn and understand on this journey. But it also talks about the observer effect of how matter appears to the observer, how it goes from wave to particle. And everything's made out of these particles, but it comes from waves. So it's all energy. It's energy manifesting into particle, but it doesn't become particle until there's an observer. And then it becomes what the observer energetically is putting out into it. Hello there, Cam. And so that's how you are creating all of this. You are the observer, and it's kind of taking shape and form according to your beliefs. You're attracting according to your beliefs. And so going within and looking about what you really truly believe in and don't believe in is how you can change how that reflection, the whole universe is a mirrored reflection of you. And so your twin flame is also a mirrored reflection of you. How they're showing up for you is a mirrored reflection of you. They are not the source of the love that you are seeking. You are the source of the love that you are seeking. You are the source of the fulfillment. You are that promise. You are the carrot on the string. And so when I switched that and I realized, like, and again, there was a whole bunch of revelation that had to take place and experience and guidance from the universe for me to even get to the place where I could like see that clearly. There was a video that I've recommended a lot of times to people because it was part of that shift in me, which is a video from Aaron Abke, which I also love Aaron Abke. You guys probably do too. It's called The Law of Reflection. And it's a great video because he shows like a video clip from a movie, and it shows how she's interacting with this being. And at first she's fighting against the being, not realizing that her fighting with the being is causing the being to fight against her, because the being is just reflecting everything that she's thinking and feeling. But she doesn't realize that at first. She thinks it's a separate entity from her, and she's fighting with it. She's like, protecting herself because she's scared. And so you see this whole scene taking place, and eventually she kind of realized like the thing almost ends up killing her because she's resisting it so much. And eventually, because she goes and like runs for the door because she's trying to get away from this thing because she thinks this thing is attacking her, but really what it's just reflecting is her own energy to her. And so she runs for the door and she goes to open the door, but because she's running for the door, but this thing is like also running for the door, but she thinks it's chasing her, but it's just reflecting her. And so she goes to open the door, and it like runs up and like smashes her up against the door. And then the more she's like resisting, the more it's like squishing her. and then she passes out. And it's because she passes out, which you could kind of look at as surrender, right? She falls to the floor. And so the thing falls to the floor too. And that's when it snapped, like the light bulb goes on in her mind. She's like, wait a second, this thing is like mirroring me. And so she goes through this process where she has to like separate herself from the feelings and the emotions and reflect that to the thing so that she can therefore control the outcome. This video, I highly recommend it. Just search Aaron Abke, Law of Reflection. He talks a lot about it. It opened my mind up. Like, it made me realize, like, wow, this is like, that was where like this huge shift took place within me. And I realized that like it was the first like moment where I was like, wait a second, that's how we control reality. So there's also a story in the Bible called Jacob and Esau, right? Where there's like a battle going on with Jacob and Esau. Well, what most people, like, they're brothers, right? But what most people don't realize is that it's actually a depiction or a story about the battle that's going on within you. And so, since there's a battle that's going on within you between a part of you that's like positive and a part of you that's negative, which is divine feminine and masculine energy, it surfaces in many different ways. It's part of the divine blueprint. It's all over everything, right? Everything shows that you and your divine masculine are a positive and negative energy of the soul. And you also have that in your physical form, and they do as well. And then that's, that's like a fractal also. It kind of keeps going, and you'll see that in everything in the world. But I digress. That battle that's going on within you is talked about in that biblical story of Jacob and Esau. And what it means is that he's wrestling with himself, and that there's like to the threat of death, right? Like, he's wrestling with himself, but what he doesn't realize is that he's creating all of the conflict in his own life because he hasn't come to that knowledge and understanding that he is the creator of all of that. So it's a similar type of story, and I've actually seen that shown to me now in like so many different things over and over and over. These are just some examples. Samadhi movie is also a great place to kind of go and listen to some things that will open your mind up. But you are wrestling with your twin flame because of your own personal stuff that you're wrestling with in your own mind. You believe that they're running from you, so they appear to be running from you, right? It's like it's just like in that, Law of Reflection with Aaron Abke. She's running for the door, so it's chasing her, right? And some people will talk about like the push-pull of twin flames. When you want your twin flame, they seem to be running from you. When you're like, whatever, then they seem to be coming back, right? And that's what a lot of twin flame teachers will teach you. Like, oh, just let him go, let him go, let him go, right? And then they come back. But then when they come back, you're like, oh, yeah. And then you start, and then they run again. And you're like, wait a second, you just came back. Like, why are you running from me again? And it's a reflection of your energy, right? If you chase, if you run away, they seem to be following you. If you're running toward them, they seem to be running away. How do you make that stop? You have to stop and neutralize the energy within yourself, okay? But that doesn't mean you'll have no feelings. How do we neutralize the energy? Detachment. Detachment doesn't mean there's no feelings. It's detachment from and being the witness, the watcher of the feelings. There's a big difference between identifying with the feelings and the thoughts that you have and witnessing the feelings and the thoughts that you have from the spiritual plane. There's something in philosophy called the Law of Correspondence. You have the spiritual plane, the mental plane, and the physical plane. It creates a trinity, right? The Holy Trinity. And what happens on each plane of existence affects the other. So if you're thinking something, it affects the physical and the spiritual. But it all comes back to, so the mental and the physical need the spiritual. The spiritual doesn't need those, okay? The spiritual exists independently. But in that trine, you have the human experience. You are a 3-part being in that trine. That's how you manifest here in the physical world. So on all three planes, you want there to be harmony. You want there to be balance. And if there's not balance, it affects all of them. So if we step back from the mental and the physical and identify as the spiritual, we can control the mental and the physical plane. But if we don't recognize the spiritual, then we identify with the mental and the physical plane only, and we are like servants and slaves to that because we are programmable. You like a computer, right? This computer is programmed to work a certain way. But how was it programmed? It was programmed to work a certain way by a programmer. But if the computer doesn't recognize that there's a programmer, it's just running off of the system. It's running off of the program, not realizing that there is even a program. It just identifies as the program. It just does what it's supposed to do. That's being asleep, right? Waking up is recognizing, yeah, there is a program, but I'm the programmer. So what do I want to program into the mind and into the body? That's radical self-responsibility. That's taking responsibility for what's in the mind, what's in the body, and how you experience that. So yeah, you're going to have the full spectrum of emotions. You're going to have thoughts that are going to be streaming through your, and your consciousness is going to be witnessing them. But you get to choose what you identify with. So you can choose your state that you want to experience by just recognizing that you are in control of what state of mind and physical experience or emotional experience that you are allowing yourself to give your energy to. That takes time to master, though. It doesn't happen overnight. You will understand the concepts of this before you'll be able to truly implement them. That takes time. Presence, awareness, mindfulness is a practice that is a muscle that you will strengthen over time. You're becoming online. You've been initialized through your twin flame experience, and you're coming into the awareness, but then you have to start applying that, and it starts to make a lot of difference and changes in your external physical world as a result. So, I know I add a lot to that, Francis, but I hope that do you have any other questions? Are there parts of it that I didn't touch? Because it's, sometimes what seems like a simple question, there's a lot to kind of talk about around it to kind of bring it to like a particular point that I want to make. So, watch that Aaron Abke video and remember that the work doesn't have like an ending to it. This is just your spiritual journey, and you're just allowing it to happen. You're allowing it to reveal itself to you. You're allowing it to take place, and you don't have to wrestle with it. And you don't, the experience of your twin flame is going to, just like everything else in life, shift and morph and change. And because from the moment that you were born until the moment that you die, and I'm sure even after, and probably even in the pre-existence before, it's like a kaleidoscope, right? We started this live almost an hour ago. And with every single moment that has passed, this now moment, this now moment, this now moment, this now moment, the kaleidoscope of what you're seeing in front of you is constantly changing, just in the statements, just in the words I'm saying. These are all shifting of the kaleidoscope of conscious, of physical experience around you, right? And your consciousness is stable, it's fixed, and it's eternal, and it's witnessing the kaleidoscope of change around it. And so there's not a particular destination that the work is meant to take you to. It will reveal itself to you. And that's where trust and faith comes in, and allowing that, knowing that source, which is what you are, and you're coming into that remembrance of, is guiding you to that highest and best experience, which is really of your choice, of your own making. That's why the refinement process happens. We're learning what we do want. We're also learning what we don't want, which is just as important as knowing what we do want. It's all part of the refinement process. Abraham Hicks talks a lot about that. She's also wonderful because she talks about the vortex, and that's her way of explaining that refinement process. Everything that you want and don't want is going into your vortex, and you're getting more and more and more focused energy because of that vortex on your bullseye, right, of what you really truly want. And then you have to have trust and faith that all of those components are coming together to manifest the life that you want, that highest version, that kingdom is what, but your soul's going through a refinement process, and your twin flame is a part of that experience. But it's really about you, because these hands do a lot of things for me. But am I more this hand than I am this hand? No, I have two hands, and they're both teaching me in different ways. You have two bodies, and they're both teaching you in different ways. It does take time to understand things on a deeper level. And even as I'm saying all of these things, like, I know that it was like I had a lot of wonderful teachers talk and explain a lot of things. I still do. Neville Goddard, Francis Scovalshin, there's James Allen, there's Manly P. Hall, there's, tons of different YouTubers that I watch and follow that are phenomenal teachers. Like, you've got Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks. I mean, there's like so many. And I've had to listen to thousands of hours. And even with the thousands of hours of them talking about these things, I can go back to a conversation that I listened to 2 years ago and get a deeper and extract a deeper meaning from that now than I could then. Because we only understand things to the level of consciousness that we're at, which is perfectly fine. Sometimes we're looped back around to get the deeper meaning of something. Or sometimes when we remember a conversation we had, we're like, oh, now I know what so-and-so meant when they said blah, blah, blah. I thought I knew at the time, but now I realize that there was an even deeper meaning to that. And so it's all moving you in the divine timing that it's meant to. It's a revelation. You're going through that revelation, and the universe is revealing it to you, and it's all in linear time. So you have faith. You allow it to happen. The question exists within you. I promise the universe is bringing you the answer. And it's absolutely predestined to be revealed to you, Francis, and to me and to everyone in the divine timing for each and every one of us, and in the unique way that the universe will do that. And that's really, truly, we talk about all these things, and I share what I know, and you interpret it the way that you're able to. And even my own stuff I'm saying now, I will understand more deeply, even the words that are coming out of my own mouth right now, more in 6 months than I do right now, right? Like, we even learn from our own words. But it will be revealed to you in the timing and in the way that it's meant to. And it's guaranteed, Francis. I promise you, it's guaranteed. And your twin flame will continue to show up for you as they are meant to. And letting go of the how it's meant to happen, what it's meant to look like, when it's meant to happen, and your belief that your journey depends on something that they are or are not doing. Letting go of that belief and just realizing that this is just your experience and this is just your journey, and it's happening as it's meant to, and having that faith, that really creates a lot of peace on that path. So yeah. So I am grateful that you guys all jumped in on the live today. I really am. I have missed doing these. I was a little nervous to get in and do it because it's been a while, and I was like, what if nobody gets in? Then I was like, nope, we're not doing that. We're just getting in and we're doing it. And, the mind is funny and it plays little tricks on us. And I thought, I'll just get in and I'll just start talking. And so your support and your likes and, your questions and just your presence here really means a lot to me. I'm always very, very grateful for it. And so I'll be back next Thursday to do another live. Of course, I'll always keep this up for a day or two, and then I'll take it down and we'll do another live next week. But thanks, you guys. I love you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And I am off to go do a tarot reading now. So if you guys want to watch my tarot reading later, I got one that's coming. All right. Take care. See you guys.